Hello guys, welcome to the 17th lecture for Cursor AI for Advanced Users course, and in this video I'll talk about something called as Agentic prompt, and I'll give you a detail about what this prompt contains and how Cursor, like we used to do earlier, like we used to give a task to a Cursor and Cursor will execute the task for us, right? In this video I'll talk about how we can give some prompt to a Cursor, Agentic prompt to a Cursor, and it will kind of act as an agentic AI for us. So right, so it will kind of execute the workflow, execute the steps, then reiterate on it, and then basically it is like a complex prompt given to Cursor and will try to execute in a way where Cursor becomes the agentic AI for us. Okay, so now I'll quickly talk about like why agentic workflow matters and why is it important. Agentic workflows let the AI act like an autonomous teammate, not just a tool. So far we have been giving some particular task to a Cursor and it was kind of executing the task. This time our prompt will contain the information in a way that the Cursor will actually act as an intelligent software engineer or an intelligent teammate who doesn't need the feedback and again on what it is executing, and this one prompt will make him like, hey, you are the software engineer, you execute this task like a software engineer. Okay, so instead of doing one task at a time, the AI executes an entire sequence of actions. You define the goal, AI follows your steps, you get an end-to-end result. Okay, this is the future of AI assisted development, moving from task execution to actually directing the entire task or orchestrating the entire task in a way where we do the sequence of steps, following them, and then we get the final output. Okay, so now we know this, let's quickly talk about what agentic workflow contains inside the prompt. Right, so it's actually a structured multi-step process executed by the AI. Each step is predefined, ordered, and conditional. We'll talk about this, what these three terms mean. And the workflow, the prompt has something called as a workflow. What does the workflow contain? There are three things. One is the goal, right? What is the final outcome that we want to achieve? A set of actions to basically to achieve this goal. What are the set of steps that you need to follow as a software engineer? So this is something that we will define in the prompt. Okay, and the final is the conditional logic. Conditional logic basically means that while executing this sequence of steps, if something fails, what you should do as a software engineer, right? For example, you can think about this like, let's say you are doing shopping, right? So basically you are trying to add items in the cart. If I have to give this workflow to agent, what will it do? It will basically try to add items in the cart, and finally it will go check out it, buy it, and then the order will be delivered to your address, right? So what we are trying to say in this case, conditional, what it means is, for example, if you're not able to add item to the cart, just stop it. Don't execute the workflow anymore. So this is what conditional logic means. Okay, so it's like writing a script that the AI performs like a pipeline. This is what we have discussed. Okay, now let's quickly talk about the detailed prompt that I have created for this. So what I want is basically for the Blockforge app that we have built, right? We want to create a Docker file for it, right? And create this Docker file only when, as a developer, when I'm coding this project on my system, when all the test cases kind of passes, right? So all these things will be kind of executed in a particular script file, right? So it will run the test cases in my local environment. Then basically what it should do, then we know that all the packages are where they are listed in the requirements.txt file. Then it will create a Docker file. Once the Docker file is created, the Docker file has certain instructions, right? Those instructions, what are those? This basically contains these kind of instructions, right? So basically use the official this Python package, set up a working directory inside the container, copy requirements.txt and install dependencies first, then copy the rest of the application code. Then what we want, expose the port 5000 and define the startup command to run the app. So this is the Docker image that we want to create when we execute on the Docker file. Right, and then we're also saying that, hey, generate a deployment script. So basically create a new script called name deploy.sh that automates the following. Build the Docker image and run a new container from the image. So basically it is an end-to-end workflow. Basically inside the Docker, our Blockforge app is now kind of running, not in our local environment or anything like that, or VNV, but we are actually doing it inside the Docker container, right? So that is also safe. You could have done VNV, or in this case, we are using Docker for this. And you know that these Docker are very easy to deploy as well. So this is something that we are not going to do. We are not going to do the deployment part, but yeah, we are going to be creating a Docker file so that we can create a Docker container out of our Blockforge app. Okay, so this is the prompt. Act as an experienced DevOps specialist. Your task is to prepare our Flask based Blockforge app. for deployment by executing a structured step-by-step workflow. If any step encounters an error, pause the process and report the issue clearly before continuing. This is the conditional logic. Right now, this is my workflow. My workflow is this: run test, execute the full test suite using PyTest in the terminal. If any test fails, stop the workflow and display the error summary. This is again our conditional logic, and these are the steps. Freeze dependencies. One test passed successfully. Regenerate the requirements.txt file by running pip freeze in requirements.txt. Freezing is basically means that, hey, whatever local environment I have right now and whatever dependencies I'm running, make sure I take a snapshot of it and keep it in the requirements.txt file, which is basically listing all my packages that I'm using for this app. Right. Build Dockerfile, create a new Dockerfile. In this already we discussed, this also we discussed. And each step should be executed sequentially with clear validation between stages. Okay, so this is this prompt that you can also use for your apps that you're building. You can also ask ChatGPT to kind of generate this Dockerfile for maybe the Next.js app or for Node.js app, whatever you're building, right? So this is how the agentic prompt looks like. This is very important. So now let me go back. Okay, so now let me go back, and what we'll do, we'll actually copy. Let's go here. Let's copy this prompt, and even before that, let's make sure that our app is working fine. Okay, so what I'm going to do is say, please kill the app and run it again for me. Let's see whether our app is running fine or not, because that is very important, because we might have made some changes. For example, in the last video, in this branch, we actually did some documentation stuff. So we have to just make sure that we are not breaking any changes which was before in our app. Okay, so let's run this, and then we'll say run this as well. Fine. And now our app is running on this port. So let me open this. And yes, our app is running here, right? We can see feed, my blogs. This is something that we have built over the time. Then we have drafts, tags, and all those things. So yeah, this is working fine, right? Now what we can do, we can actually go to our here, and we can copy this prompt, right? So this is what we want. So let me copy this. Let's go back to cursor, and here we'll just paste this prompt. Okay, so let me press enter here, and now this is gonna behave like an agent, right? A kind of an autonomous teammate who is kind of working on something to achieve the goal that we have given to him based on the steps that I've mentioned in my prompt. Okay, so let's do this. So we'll say run. So it is gonna run my test cases. So it's fine. So first it is running all the test cases. So make sure that it runs the test cases, all of those test cases fast, then only it goes for this next step, right? And the next step is basically this one, freezing the current packages that we have in this project into this requirements.txt file. So let me run this. Once it is done, this was our second step. Now it is going through creating the Docker file for us. Okay, so now it has created a Docker file. Let me go to the Docker file, and this is what Docker file looks like. And this is what, and we didn't have to write a single line or know about like what does Docker file contain. Is actually being able to do it by yourself, right? So it has also written the command to how it should go about running the app. So that is also really good. So we'll say, let me go to the next file now. And yes, we'll keep it. This is our deploy.sh file, right? So we'll say run it. So it is making our deploy.sh executable. Eventually what we have to do, we have to kind of use this deploy.sh file to build our Docker image, I guess, right? So yeah, building Docker image. So it will actually build a Docker image. And then finally, once the image is created, it will also start our this one, Docker container as well, making sure that our app is kind of run with just one script, right? Test cases are run, snapshot put into requirements.txt file, and we have a Docker container as well, which is very huge, right? So with just one script file, you have a Docker container running, and you can deploy this to any EC2 instance or something like in even in Azure or GCP, whichever one you use. Okay. So let's run this. So we have the Docker file and this one. So we'll say just run this, that all our deployment files created successfully. Let's go next. We'll say keep it, right? So these are, so now it's saying that, hey, what all agentic steps that whatever steps that you told me to execute in this workflow, I have completed it, right? So what we can do is all you have to do is just run this command. this command, and basically your this will build a Docker image, start the container on port 5000, validate the deployment, and basically you will have your app running here. Okay, so we are going to do this. Yes. And very importantly, it has also identified this part, right? The part is basically that the Flask env he is not included in our Docker image, which is really good, right? Because our credentials would be exposed in the server file. So it's kind of saying that when you're running, right? When you're running, you can use this command, pass your keys, secret key, and all those things, and then it will be able to run. Okay, so let me try to run this command, right? So we're going to do this. So we're going to go here. This is where our directory is, right? So let me run this pwd. We are in the Blockforge app. Let me clear it. Let me check if I have the script. So basically it was okay. So now let's try to run the script that we have written using this agentic prompt using cursor. So what we're going to do, we're going to just use this deploy.sh that we have inside this, and let me press enter. Make sure you have Docker installed in the system. You can it's very easy to do. You can just go to Docker site and you can install the Docker desktop, or if you want CLI, that is also good enough, right? So we can just press enter here, and let's see. So basically it's now getting the image that we want, and yeah, it's doing a bunch of stuff, so we are not going to bother much about that. You can always go to the Docker file and see it here, like what all stuffs that it is doing, right? So this was about the Docker file, but what are we doing? We are actually going to deploy.sh, and this is the thing that we are actually executing. So right now it's working on the Docker file only. So let it do. So right now the work directory is app. Okay, so now we can see it's copying the requirements of txt file, and then it's going to install all the packages that we have put in the requirements.txt file, right? So let it do that, and then we will move ahead. Okay, so it looks like all the packages have been installed now, and now we are actually creating an image, right? So let's let cursor do that. And what we have is we got an error while starting our new container. Ports are not available, and yeah, because we were running our app, that's why it was failed to kind of run this Docker container on that port. So what you can do is we can kill this whatever running on right now on 5000 port. So I'll kill this manually actually, so that is fine. You could have asked cursor also to kill that, so that is also works. So let me kill that, and then we have more stuff running on this port, so I'll kill those as well. And can we do it multiple at once? We can. So yeah, let's do that, and let me clear this. And what you can do, you can again run the deploy.sh, deploy.sh, right? This time you should run very fast because we have already built a Docker image. Ports are not available again, bind address already in use. Why is it saying that? So let me check. Do we have something? Yeah, we have running something here, but we already killed it, right? So let me check. Now anything's running. Yeah, we still have something running here. Why is that? What is this? Complex main. Let me check again. So 5000, let me kill those processes. 41506, I've killed it. Yes, let me check now. And again, we have some new process running here. So maybe what I can do is I can maybe expose a different port on my Docker file, and maybe we should check that issue later on, like why is it not running on that port, right? So we are going to expose, let's say maybe 5001 port. Okay, and inside that it can run on 5000 port. Okay, so now let's run this deploy.sh, and address already in use. Okay, let's do this also one, and bind. Let's actually, what can we can ask actually cursor to do this. So uh, make sure that app or basically Docker file exposes 5001 port where we can run the app. Okay, so let us do this change. Actually, we should not do that. We can do that. We can, I mean, it will take some time for me to kind of figure out like what all the changes are required. But yeah, we can ask Cursor to do this fast, right? Okay, so Cursor is making those changes. We'll say keep it. We'll keep all of those. And then what we have in deploy.sh as well. Deploy.sh will say keep all of those, right? And let me run this, and yeah, so now we can run it again. So let me run this, deploy.sh. Now let's run it on port 5001, and this time we have our image created, and now we are starting the container as well. Okay, so now the container is also running. So what we can do is we can go we can click on this link, and it's not running. Why is that? So maybe we can check logs to see what is the issue. Let's run this. Goonicon not found. What is this Goonicon? Okay, let me copy this and paste it to Cursor. I got this error for Docker container from logs of Docker container, right? So this is mostly a reiterating kind of a thing that we got one of few issues from the agentic workflow that we created. That is fine, and now Cursor can fix this for us. Okay, so looks like now the Goonicon is now added. I don't know what that means, but yeah, that's fine. We can run this script file again to build our image, and this time it will actually, because we have a change in the requirements of txt, it is going to build the or install the packages again. So yeah, that is going to take some time. That is fine. So let's hope this time it gets faster. Okay, so looks like that is done. Now it is exporting to image. That is basically creating the Docker image, and let's see whether this time our container runs or not. Okay, so our container has started successfully. That's what Cursor is saying. So let me open this image, and this time we have some issues. That is fine. My blogs is not working, so I'm guessing it is because even our what do you call, the Tailwind CSS is not built correctly, right? That is one issue. The other issue is I'm guessing that issue is related to the environment variable that we didn't pass, right? So let me check that. So let me go back here. And we did got the command above where we can pass the command line arguments through running the terminal. So this is the command. Okay, so let me clear this. Actually, I can put it in my deploy.sh as well. Can we? Where are we running? So command F docker run. This is where running, and image latest. So here also we can pass the parameters. So let me try that, right? So let me try this change, making this change manually. So we'll say -e, and then we have Gemini API key, right? And then we can go to Flask env, copy our Gemini API key, then go back, put it sh. We can have this one, and then we can have more here, more. Yeah, we can pass others as well. So -e, and then what we have in Flask env, we have Flask, this one, which is development, right? So let's copy this development tab, and then we have one more, right? We have one more, which is Flask app, and this one, right? So let me copy this, go to deploy.sh and paste it there, right? And this should also be -e, right? So these are sorry, my bad. Yeah, so this looks good to me. Now let me try it again. So we only have changes in the deploy.sh, so we can just run our deploy.sh again. So let's see now whether it's running about. Okay, yeah, so now it's running. Let me open this link and let's try signing with Google. And we still have this error: the server cannot process the request because it is malformed. It should not be retried. Okay, my blogs, we are getting this error. Actually, let me go back and are we passing this correctly? Okay, so I was finally able to fix it. The issue was that while developing our project using Cursor, our BlockWatch app, we kind of removed the secret and client ID maybe during some time of vibe coding. So make sure these things are still intact with your project, right? And we have added this in our deploy.sh file. Make sure it's not exposed in your Docker file, because Docker file is something that you actually commit to GitHub, and we have it inside our deploy.sh file. Or generally what happens is when you're running, maybe let's say docker run, and you can pass those environment variables like this with -c, and then you can have it's written here, right? So maybe we can also say that, hey, don't commit this deploy.sh file, or while running, make sure you have this environment variable somewhere safe, and then you can copy it from there, and then you can run your container like this in command line. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're gonna now jump, and actually let me run my deploy.sh file and hope that this time it should work, right, with all those environment variables being correctly passed. So our image is created and our container is running. So let me open this one, and yeah, now we are able to run this. Let me sign in, and then let me sign in with some user. And this time we are should be able to redirect, and yes, let's continue. And we have some errors, right? So now let me show you how we can detect those errors. So you can use this to check logs in the container. So this is the container name, and you can use docker logs and say blog forge app, right? So I'm guessing that we have some issues here, and some issues are there. Auth has no attribute Google, that is one thing. And is that the only issue? Maybe we can just copy this and pass it to Cursor that, hey, I'm getting this error in my Docker. So let me copy this, and I'll say Command L, and getting this error in Docker container, right? So we are going to debug this error with our Cursor to fix those things, and let's see what Cursor does. Okay, so looks like Cursor has done this. So let me run those commands that it is asking me to do. So I'll say docker stop blogforge app, then docker rm blogforge app, and then we're going to say deploy.sh, right? So let's run it, and let's hope that this time our container runs successfully, and we should be able to log in and see our stuff. Okay, so let me open this URL. It's running fine. Let me sign in with Google, this guy, and let me continue. And again, we have some internal server error. So let me check the logs using this command again, and let's check. This time we have some SQL error. So let me copy this. I'm guessing that we haven't set up our database inside the Docker, so that is what is causing the issue. So let me pass this to Cursor, and yeah, let me copy this. Getting this error in Docker container. Did we not set up the database? Right, so let me check that, and let's try to fix it. Yeah, I guess that is the issue. In the Docker file, we should have also in our workflow, we should have said that, hey, in the Docker file, we want this database to be set up as well. Okay, so let's go there and keep it. Database is initialized, and let's run this. Docker file. So I'm guessing this is where it's gonna create my database inside that, right? Okay, so looks like it's fine now. So let me copy this command to stop our container. Then we'll remove our container as well. Then we will run this one. Let me check if it has added anything around database. It has not, so that is fine. So let me run this. And now if our container is running, then we should hope that we have a database in the Docker file as well. And okay, so looks like a container is running. Let me open this and let me sign in with Google. And now we are in. So I can see my blogs. I don't have a blog, so that's fine. So maybe I can use my other one where we had something here. Now let's log in here. So these are my blogs. So let me try to create a new blog actually. So I'll just say Google Gemini Code Assist course for beginners. Let me check if my AI part is working. Generating with AI, and no, it's failed to generate. Let me try to save it. And are we able to save it? My blogs, yes, so I'm able to save it, but I see is that we have some issues with let me go to my blog actually, and let me try to edit it, and let's try to do this one, repurpose to LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is content is generated successfully, so our AI is working correctly. Let me use this one, generate with AI, and description is not working. Let me do this one. So Twitter thread is also generated, so our AI part is working correctly. Maybe some issues there, so we're not going to fix this, so that's fine. So yeah, but the important thing is now we are doing it from Docker. This is actually the Docker container that is running, right? And you can basically end of the day deploy this Docker container, or basically Docker file, to some EC2 instance and run it there. And basically what you will have is basically just one script. You have your app running in server, and basically you can connect with this. Basically your database is also inside the Docker file, so that is very interesting as well. You maybe can have a separate database URL and maybe configure that inside Docker file, so that is also something you can do. But for now, this is what we're going to do. We're going to stop here, and we have created an entire script file which creates a Docker file for us, which creates a Docker container, running Docker container for us, and which we can deploy it to maybe some EC2 instance or whichever cloud service you are using. Okay, so that is it for this video, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.